Hi guys. Hello. Okay, so I thought I'd just start by saying Happy World Menopause Day to everybody. Thank you all for being here. So I'll just do a little introduction to start. So I'll just say hi from me. So I'm Stephanie Smith. Some of you might follow me already, I'm not sure, but I'm a registered women's health nutritionist. So I work one-to-one with women working on all aspects of health. But my particular passion is on hormone health and working with women at all different life stages. So prenatal, fertility, postnatal, and of course, the menopause. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, which is going to be shared on the screen, and I think will be shared at the end if I'm right. And I've also got a website. So you can go and check me out there if you want anything extra. But with that introduction done, I'm going to jump straight in. We can get chatting about all things the menopause. So can I have my next slide, please? Okay, great. So you all probably know what the menopause is, but I'll just do a little brief overview to get us started. So the menopause is a natural aging process. It marks the end of a woman's reproductive years. It's defined as the point in time when a woman has not had a menstrual period for 12 consecutive months. And this typically occurs between the ages of 45 and 55, but it can happen earlier and later for some individuals. Menopause is very much a unique and individual journey for everyone. With that, it's probably worth mentioning that a woman is said to have gone through the menopause after having these 12 months without a period, and the time after that is post-menopause, and the time before it is perimenopause. Now, that perimenopause period can last anything from a few months to a few years, and the hormone fluctuations during that time are mega. They are really, really dramatic, and they can be extremely difficult for women. But because women haven't stopped menstruating, their periods haven't necessarily completely stopped, their symptoms can be dismissed a little bit, or a woman can kind of feel a bit confused and not really know what's happening, can be confused of whether it is the perimenopause. So it is quite a difficult time for women, that period, especially if it's a long one. And during the perimenopause and menopause, as your hormones are fluctuating so frantically, it's not just a steady decline, sadly. It can cause a lot of physical and psychological symptoms. And during this transition, the cause of a lot of these symptoms is this massive decline in estrogen. So the decline in estrogen starts at kind of by about age 50. I think they say that it's like 50% decrease. So you've got a 50% decrease in estrogen by age 50, and they keep declining after that. And it's the main cause in a lot of your menopause symptoms and a lot of the health risks that come with the menopause. So can I have my next slide, please? So this decline in estrogen, it means that as women, you enter a more pro-inflammatory state. So it puts a stop to your periods, but with that, it also impacts your bone health, your heart health, your brain health, and comes with a host of potential menopause symptoms, such as hot flushes, mood swings, sleep disturbances, loss of libido, joint aches, pains, fatigue, low mood. And that is because estrogen is often referred to as the feel-good hormone. So with this decline, it does come with all these kind of bothersome symptoms. And although menopause, it is a universal experience, all women will experience it at some point in their life. But it's a massive change for women, and not all women will experience the same menopause. Some will experience very bothersome symptoms, which can really affect their quality of life, and some may seem to get off lightly in a way. But regardless of what symptoms you're experiencing or your friend's experiencing, this pro-inflammatory state that comes with the decline in estrogen, is still there, and therefore the risk of some health conditions are still there. So regardless of how you experience the menopause, it's still really important at this age to focus on an anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle pattern. I will detail this a bit later. I'm going to sound like a broken record by the end of it, because this anti-inflammatory diet is going to come up a lot. So I'll go into as much detail as I can a bit later on. So can I have my next slide, please? So I'll go into just some of the health risks that come with the menopause and how we can mitigate them. It's not all doom and gloom. I really don't want this talk to be negative in any way. I'm just going to detail some of them and talk you through some of the ways that you can help and support your body during this time. So we'll look at your heart first. So before the menopause, women are thought to be less likely to get heart disease than men. But after the menopause, the blood vessel changes that happen during this time increase a woman's chance of getting heart disease, along with the changes in body fat distribution and blood pressure and cholesterol changes. These all mean that it's more important essentially for us to follow a heart healthy diet. And to do this, there's lots of ways we can support our heart during this time. So following this anti-inflammatory diet, which you will be told about in detail in a little bit, reducing saturated fats, reducing red and processed meat, and reducing ultra-processed food is important. Ultra-processed food is really in the limelight at the moment. It's being talked about a lot. You don't need to fear it. We don't need to avoid everything and anything. All foods can be included in a diet, but it's just making sure that the ultra processed side of foods are much less than the whole foods that you're eating. As well as making sure we're getting our 5 a day. I'd say at least 5 a day. We can get more than that, I think, in our diet. Being mindful of your salt intake. Including lots of lovely nuts and seeds. There's so many good ones out there now that you can get lots of different nuts in one bag, lots of different seeds in one bag. And limiting alcohol is very important for your heart health. One that I think a lot of people tend to find quite hard. Then moving on to our bone health. So during the menopause, this decline in estrogen, it's also responsible for an increased risk of osteoporosis. So looking after your bones is also very important. But luckily, there's so many nutrients that most of us eat every day in everyday foods that help create healthy, strong bones. So that is nutrients such as calcium, vitamin D, protein, magnesium, vitamin K, and phosphorus. So you're thinking things like dairy products, meat, poultry, fish, eggs, nuts, legumes, so things like beans and pulses, vegetables, and lots of different grains. So most people eat a lot of these anyway, so you generally tend to be getting enough in your diet. But a vitamin D supplement is recommended for all women of all ages during the winter months. And during the menopause, it could be worth, if you feel like you do not get enough calcium, so maybe you follow a plant-based diet, or for other reasons you don't think you're getting enough calcium, it could be worth looking at a supplement. But too much calcium, as with everything, too little is not good, too much is not good. So you want to make sure you're taking the correct dose. So always speak to a doctor or a nutritionist if you do think you can't get enough calcium in your diet. So going now on to healthy gut. So your gut during the menopause is super important. Again, another thing that is talked about a lot. It's great. It's getting lots of airtime. The gut, which is great for us nutritionists. The gut microbiome, essentially during the menopause, again due to estrogen, changes. It changes so much that it results in a less diverse gut microbiome. So that essentially means you have less good gut bacteria in your gut. And we want, gut bacteria is super important. We want all the good guys in there. And this decline in estrogen means that those good guys reduce a little bit. So because of this, gut health is implicated in lots and lots of things. So not just, digestive health, but all other aspects of health. So taking care of your gut can reduce any gastrointestinal symptoms that you get during the menopause, but it can also have a knock-on effect to other parts of the body, such as the brain, the skin, and any anti-inflammatory conditions. So it's a big one to look after the gut. And you can do this by including things like probiotic-rich foods, like live yogurt and kefir, prebiotic foods, fibre, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats. I'm not going to go through a list of them now because they're going to come later and I don't want to repeat myself over and over and over again. But they're super important for gut health and I'll take you through them later. But another one that people don't often think about is eating mindfully. I think a lot of us now, and it's, we all do it. We're busy people. We often forget to just sit and actually enjoy our food. We're on the go, we're rushing, we're, chowing down our food, watching telly in the evening. But mindful eating can be extremely, extremely good for the gut. Giving yourself that time of self-care to sit and enjoy your dinner or your lunch, not be running around, sitting at the table, chewing properly, and giving yourself that space and that time for yourself. So that's some little tips for how we can look after our gut. Now moving on to the brain. These hormonal changes, again, this decline in estrogen, again, like a broken record with this, these hormone changes, they have an impact on the neurotransmitters in a woman's brain. So neurotransmitters are essentially, they're chemical messengers that pass messages to other parts of the brain and all over the body. So depletion of this estrogen over time can cause lots of changes in a woman's brain structure. It can cause changes in memory and cognition, increased forgetfulness or brain fog. I mean, lots of women going through the menopause say that they'll so often go into a room and forget what they went in for, or open the fridge and be like, why did I go in the fridge, or constantly lose their keys and things like that. They're very common symptoms in the menopause. Mood changes, sleep disturbances, anxiety and depression are all common symptoms associated with the brain in menopause. All very common, and it is worth just going back to those memory changes, noting that although these changes that happen do mimic some of the symptoms of dementia, and a lot of women during the menopause, they have the fear, they have the anxiety that, is this something else, or is this the menopause? And for most women, these changes are temporary and they will return to normal after the menopause transition. Obviously, of course, if you think there's anything going on, it's always worth talking to a doctor. But research does seem to say that you will go back to normal after the menopause transition. But that normal may have changed, because obviously chronological aging changes. There's cognitive changes that happen with chronological aging as well. So remember, your normal might be slightly different to what it was before the menopause anyway. So going more onto the depression and anxiety side, which they are huge in the menopause, and they're the symptoms that women are talking about a lot more now, and they are ones that women struggle with a lot, and it can be extremely hard for all women, but can be really hard, especially for those that have had any mental health issues in the past, have experienced trauma, or had any other mood disorders in the past. And it can also make it extremely hard for women to cope with big life events that can happen during this time. There's so many things that can be happening. You could have children leaving to go to university, children leaving to go and live on another side of the country, bereavement. There's having these hormone changes can make it much more difficult to cope with these, and can trigger off a phase of anxiety or low mood. So looking after our brain, looking after our nervous system is therefore really, really important in this stage of life. And there's many things we can do to support our brain health during this time. So some ideas are making sure we're maximizing on our antioxidants. So this is making sure we're eating lots and lots of color, lots and lots of variety. I always say, eat the rainbow. Look at your plate. Is it all one color? If not, add some more. reduce your saturated fats and increase your omega-3 fats. So your omega-3 fats come from oily fish, nuts and seeds. So because the best source of omega-3 comes from animal products, if you're vegan, I generally recommend a supplement of omega-3. Fiber and complex carbohydrates are also really important. Carbs are the brain's preferred source of fuel. So without carbs, your brain's not getting what it really wants. So if you're ensuring that you're getting a really good source of carbohydrates and focusing on the whole grain version, the brown versions, it's super important for your brain health. And then vitamins like B vitamins, choline and magnesium are really important, and these are found in lots of foods you'll already be eating, like lean meats, nuts, seeds, eggs, and all different types of cereals, whether that's in a flour or whether that's a breakfast cereal. It's also that there's lots of lifestyle things, taken away from the food side for our mental health and our brain health. Lifestyle things can also be really important, and I think these are being talked about quite a lot more as well. So things like breathing exercises are so, like, if you can start these in your day, maybe make it a healthy habit of your day in the morning or in the evening. You only need to do it for 10 breaths in, 10 breaths out. Try breathing in for 4, 5 or 6, holding it for 2, and then breathing out for 4, 5 or 6, depending on how you feel with that amount of time. Getting outdoors is incredibly important for our mental health. Exercising, and your exercise might have changed during the menopause. What you enjoy, what you feel able to do might have changed, but if you're getting your body moving, that's brilliant. Just do it in the way that suits you. Reducing stress is also a big one, but obviously it's a harder one to control. It's sometimes a bit more out of our control, but if you can reduce your stress a little, that can help. And another one that's often difficult for women going through the menopause is getting a good night's sleep. Very important for brain health, very important for our mental health. But I do know that that can often be the bugbear of many women going through the menopause. Next slide, please, if you can. But so considering that women spend a third of their lives in this postmenopausal phase, it's a huge chunk of their lives. We want to, as nutritionists, we want to make sure that women are able to thrive and be healthy and enjoy this part of their lives. And although I've discussed some of these risks and some of the symptoms associated with menopause, which might be a bit more doom and gloom, I'm going to now look into a bit more of what you can do to be proactive, look after yourself, support yourself during this time. So we'll now go into a bit more detail on all those dietary changes that I previously mentioned. So can I have the next slide, please? So as women enter a more pro-inflammatory state, as I've said, during the menopause transition, it is very important to try and follow, as I have said quite a few times up to now, an anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle. Now, the most popular diet that encompasses all aspects of this anti-inflammatory diet pattern is the Mediterranean diet. You've probably heard about it. It's talked about a lot. It is a wonderful diet, full of all the foods I've mentioned previously. So lots of fresh fruit, veg, grains, nuts and seeds, good quality fish, low intake of red meat, lots of healthy fats, complex carbs. And over the years, it has had quite a lot of hype for good reason. And because of that, there's been lots of books and recipe books brought out. So if you're interested in looking at that in more detail, then there's loads out there, loads on Amazon you can maybe have a little look at. But we don't have to follow a particular diet pattern. We don't have to be extremely strict and follow a set diet. We just have to be mindful of what you are and aren't eating during the menopause. So some of the best nutritional changes that you want to make during the menopause, I'll go into now. So the main one, the first one, is lots of fruit and veg. It's the simplest one, I'd say, and it's one that it's been peddled for quite a long time. Started with the 5 a day campaign. And fruit and veg, if you can get a lot of fruit and veg in your diet, you are maximizing on so many nutrients. They are bursting with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, all of which have a positive effect on heart health, gut health, hormone health, metabolic health, mental health. So some tips of how we can increase our intake of fruit and veg. One thing I always say to people is try and make half of your plate fruit and veg. So instead of going to cook a meal and centering it around what meat you use, center it around the veg. For example, you could do a tray bake and decide on 3 really lovely veg that you want to have in this tray bake, and you pick a couple of different spices or a couple of different, I call them flavor enhancers. So anything from, like, I've got some here, so like pesto, a really good pesto, or like a really nice like curry paste, or something like harissa, or gosh, there's loads. If you do like balsamic vinegar is a really nice one. Lots of herbs and spices, rosemary, oregano. Mixing up your herbs and spices, because these are plants as well, and these have their own nutritional benefit. And then after you've decided on that, then choosing your source of protein. And from that, you might think, oh, actually, I don't need the meat in that. I might have some chickpeas. I might have some halloumi. I might have some eggs with it instead. I might try some salmon today. And that way you're centering it around your veg, and you're getting, at least 3 portions of veg just from that one meal. Another tip I have is to try a new vegetable every week. Obviously, it won't last your whole life, because I don't think there's enough new vegetables out there. But it could just be a little challenge for a few months, where every week when you do your shop, you think, right, I'm going to pick a different vegetable today. It could be fennel, it could be butternut squash, it could be pak choi, something that you don't have, because your gut bugs love variety. And it means that you're feeding your gut bugs something new, which they will love you for. And you're also getting an array of different antioxidants, all which have an anti-inflammatory effect on the gut, but also on the rest of the body. My third and final tip, because I don't want to bombard you with them, is to try smoothies or soups. Even it's like a similar thing. You can get so many portions in one smoothie or one soup. So for example, a smoothie, you could try a smoothie made with banana, frozen berries, a handful of spinach, some peanut butter, and some soy milk, and that's 3 portions of fruit and veg in one go. And although the spinach might make it a funky color, you won't taste it because it'll be disguised with everything else. And you could start your day with it, and you've had 1 portion of veg already in the morning. I mentioned there as well frozen fruit. It's worth saying here that frozen fruit, frozen veg are just as good as just as good as normal veg. They are full of nutrients. They're frozen straight after being picked. So if they work better for you, then I'm absolutely fine with it. Can I have my next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so going back to fiber. Fiber is also a big one. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments here. If you have any questions now, just send them into the comment box, and I'll either answer them as I go, or I'll answer them at the end. But if they pop into your head now, then feel free to add them as we go. So looking at fiber now. So as I mentioned before, gut symptoms can get worse during the menopause. So things like constipation and IBS type symptoms can flare up during this time. So a good way to look after your gut and your heart and your brain and all other aspects of health is to consume enough fiber. Fiber is one of those nutrients that is so important, but actually it's one of those that a lot of people just aren't getting enough of, and there are a lot of campaigns out there now to try to encourage people to be more aware of this, because along with the brain health, heart health, gut health, fiber's also really important for keeping you full and satiated and keeping your blood sugar levels stable. So your blood sugar is, instead of going up and then down, it stays a little bit more stable throughout the day by including fiber in your meals. And with that, it reduces any energy dips. Like if your blood sugar is going up and then dipping straight back down, when you get to this bottom bit, your energy levels will dip, and you can experience things like brain fog, quite significant fatigue, and anxiety can be triggered by this as well. So some tips on how to include a bit more fibre would be fruit and veg again. I told you I will be saying the same things again and again and again because they are just so good. But a tip for more fibre is to keep the skins on them. So if you're using vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, anything like that, don't peel them. Keep the skin on them. Even if you're doing mash, just keep the skin on them. It means you're getting all the goodness from the fibre under the skins. Another one is to try and include beans into your diet. There's loads out there now, loads of posh jarred ones like these guys. These are really, really delicious, but they're so much more expensive than just your general tins. These are just as good. If we can try and include many different types of beans, you get different different benefits for your gut microbes. They're also really easy to get hold of, pretty inexpensive, and you can try lots of different types. Butter beans, cannellini beans, borlotti. There's loads out there. Go to the supermarket, try a different one every time you go. And I guess if you're not quite ready to go bean mad and start just eating them as they are in your meals, you could hide them in things, whiz them into a pasta sauce with tomatoes and peppers. You could whiz them into soups. You can mix them into chili con carne, so you're having like maybe half meat, half beans, and you're getting the best of both worlds then. Then on the kind of same topic as beans is to include more pulses, so pulses and whole grains. So instead of sticking with your normals, like your white rices, we could switch them. So we could switch them for brown rice, brown pasta, or trying all the different types of pasta that are out there at the moment. There's loads. There's, you can get like pea pasta, buckwheat pasta, you can lentil pasta. Or trying, there's these lovely like microwavable grains that you can get now, which are so good. You can get so many different pulses and legumes in them, and they're done in a minute in the microwave. And again, you can add them to your pasta sauces. You could have them on top of salads. You could add them to your tray bake soups. Super quick, super easy. And there's obviously lovely brands like that, but supermarkets all do their own now. So they're very accessible. Kind of my next slide, please. And then finishing my macronutrients that I've talked about lots and lots already with healthy unsaturated fats. So I've said a few times already, try and replace your saturated fats with unsaturated fats. So unsaturated fats are essentially healthy fats that are much richer in omega-3. And they're really, really important for women throughout their whole life, but especially through the menopause, because they are really potent anti-inflammatories. They also help to reduce our triglycerides. They can be, the anti-inflammatory nature can help to reduce joint pain and inflammation. It can support brain health, mental health, and these unsaturated fats are incredibly heart healthy. So you're doing lots of benefits in one with these. So some tips here are try cooking with extra virgin olive oil or extra virgin avocado oil. These oils are, especially extra virgin olive oil, it is like liquid gold. It is so full of benefits for the body. So don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it as a fat at all. Drizzle extra virgin olive oil and any other cold pressed nuts and seed oils onto your meals, onto your salads, onto your tray bakes. Include lots of nuts and seeds. These are also a source of omega-3 fats. So there's really good ones here where you can get like this one. It's got I think it's got 5 different seeds in one bag. Super easy. You don't have to do it yourself. Then you don't have to buy 5 different types. You can have one bag with all of them in. Sprinkle them on your breakfast. Sprinkle them on your dinners. Have a little pot in the cupboard just to make it easy to add to things. And then finally, including oily fish twice a week. So switching out, if you're one of those people that eats chicken for most of your meals, you know, maybe two nights a week, say, right, I'm going to have a piece of salmon, or I'm going to have some mackerel or some tin sardines on toast for my lunch. Really good. That's a really good, easy way of getting in some of your oily fish in the week. And then, of course, I can't say add good fats without saying reduce some of your saturated fats like butter, lard, coconut oil, cakes, pastries, and fried foods. Coconut oil actually is a big one that I think there was a big craze of it a few years ago, where, you know, it was thought of as like the biggest health food, and it is actually quite high in saturated fats. So if you are someone that enjoys coconut oil, enjoy it, but just be aware that it is still a saturated fat. May I have my next slide, please? And then we have protein. So protein is super important, ensuring you have adequate protein in each meal to support your bone health. But it's also really important for keeping you fuller and more satisfied, which can be quite a benefit in the menopause, because a lot of women do see body fat distribution changes, increases, or they might hold extra weight in places they didn't before, and you're keeping yourself satiated so that your energy levels aren't dipping and your cravings aren't coming back between meals. Protein is a good way to try to do that. You don't have to be counting your protein. I know there's lots of things on social media out there, which there's lots of numbers and weighing and all that stuff. I generally just say to clients, if you can ensure you're getting enough protein by aiming to have a source of protein with each meal or snack, you will be getting enough protein in your day. And I think a lot of women generally tend to not get enough protein because they get kind of consumed with the fact that protein is just meat or fish, and it's not. You can get so many lovely plant-based proteins, which I actually would encourage women to try, and maybe switch out their animal protein for a plant-based protein every now and again. Plant-based protein includes things like nuts, seeds, Greek yogurt, eggs, cheese, tofu, tempeh, and beans and legumes. So you can get it in all the lovely things I've previously mentioned as well. And then, of course, to reduce your red and processed meat is incredibly important for your heart during the menopause. Okay, so I've detailed like the macronutrients, so to speak. I'm now going to go into just a couple of, I'm going to single out a few nutrients that are important during the menopause. So please can I have my next slide? So phytoestrogens, they might be the one that you've maybe not heard of, or maybe you've heard of because they're talked about kind of in research quite a lot. If you've read about what to eat for the menopause online, you may have heard of them. So in terms of hot flushes, which haunt so many women during the menopause, much of the research has focused on these soy isoflavones, these phytoestrogens. They are essentially the compounds in soy foods, and they mimic estrogen. The research is mixed still, but regular consumption of soy-based foods, so things like soy milk, tofu, tempeh, edamame beans, miso, have been found to reduce both the severity and the frequency of hot flushes. But sadly, soy foods are kind of the ones that people generally struggle to include. Might be because it's not in our kind of Western diet. They've not been something that we've included all our lives, and then you get to get a bit older and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know how to include tofu into my food now, or how do I make it taste good in a way. So one tip that I generally tend to say to women is maybe try doing a meat-free Monday. Where it's a plant-based Monday, and it means that you have to experiment a little bit with some of these plant-based proteins, and that could be a way of experimenting with tofu and tempeh, finding ways that you actually enjoy them and sticking with those. And because tofu it's kind of like a flavor sponge, you have to make it taste good. So if you are a bit reticent with it, then maybe try adding it to bigger dishes. So ones that have lots of ingredients or lots of flavor, like curries or stews, where it kind of hides in there instead of being the main event. Um, or a way that I quite like doing it is to grate it, and then you can fry it with your stir fry in the evening, and you almost don't notice it. The texture then isn't like it normally is because it's grated. Um, or soy milk if you're kind of wanting to dabble and not quite sure on tofu yet. Soy milk's a really good one to include because you can use it just as normal milk, so in your morning breakfast, in your smoothie, mixed into porridge, even with your coffee if you fancy it. My next slide, please. And then going on to probiotic foods, I mentioned them before, but didn't want to go into too much detail, so I didn't repeat myself again and again. But probiotic foods, they are incredible for the gut and keeping the gut healthy. Can have a knock-on effect on the whole body. So probiotic foods include things like yogurt, live yogurt, kefir, miso, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, anything that's fermented. So even if you ferment something at home, it's probiotic. So if you ferment some garlic, that is a probiotic food. But again, these are quite unusual. They're quite strong tasting. Some people, struggle to stomach the taste of them. So the ways in which you could maybe try doing it is you could switch your afternoon drink for a kombucha. There's lots of lovely ones out there at the moment, lots of different flavors. So try one of the sugar-free ones that are flavored naturally, but quite a nice way of having a little probiotic drink in the afternoon. Or use live yogurt or Greek yogurt as a snack maybe, or on your breakfast. And then if you're not quite ready to be drinking kefir as a snack, you could whiz that into a smoothie with some fruits and peanut butter or nut butter or seeds or something like that. Or you could, miso is an absolute, it is like a flavor bomb. It can just transform a meal. So you could maybe try doing that with a soup or a stew or a curry. It's super salty, super umami. So people do tend to like miso once they've got used to using it. I'll have my next slide, please. And then, of course, I have gone through lots of what we can eat, but is there anything I shouldn't be eating? So most of the time, I don't like to tell people what not to eat. I generally say the only foods you absolutely shouldn't eat are the ones you are allergic to or that you don't like, because I do believe that there is a place for all foods in the diet. But obviously, during the menopause, there are certain things you should be mindful of, and that includes your intake of alcohol, caffeine, spicy foods, and salt. So spicy foods are generally, because they're a trigger food for some people with acid reflux or night sweats or hot flushes. This is something that will be individual to you, so you just have to give it a little test. If you feel like the spicy foods are setting those off, then maybe you need to avoid them. If not, go ahead. Spicy foods, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing unhealthy about spicy foods. But with alcohol and caffeine and salt, these can worsen menopause symptoms like hot flushes, night sweats, and anxiety, and of course sleep disturbances. So it could be worth you looking at how much you have and maybe trying to reduce it. But that's all I will say on not eating, because I do believe that there is a place for everything and we don't need to totally eliminate things. Can I have my next slide, please? Okay, and then I couldn't do this talk without just quickly mentioning HRT. If you are taking HRT, then the above dietary recommendations that I've said before, all the anti-inflammatory diets, they still stand. Eating a good quality, well-balanced diet comes with lots of health benefits, even if you're on HRT. So you don't need to change anything if you've decided to go on hormone replacement. You'll also probably have noticed that the menopause supplement market is absolutely booming. There is a menopause supplement everywhere you look. Add the word menopause to a supplement and it can immediately be sold at like double the price. And it's super, super confusing to know what to spend money on or what not to spend money on. And ultimately, there are some nutritional supplements that may be considered of benefit or that women self-report a benefit, like black cohosh or sage. But there's limited evidence. There's limited studies around them. So we don't have the research to back it up. So as nutritionists, we don't have the research to say to us, you should spend your money on it yet. The nutrients that do have the most evidence-based research around them are calcium and vitamin D, as I said before, which you can get from your diet. Vitamin D should be supplemented in the winter months. Vitamin B6, B5 and B1, magnesium and zinc. These are all things that you can get through your diet. But obviously with anything, if you feel like you need extra help, you should always speak to your doctor or a nutritionist before starting anything, because you don't want to spend money on something that you don't need to. So that is my next slide, please. Okay. So can I have my next slide, please? Oh, we've gone back. Oh, it's not. It's okay. It's not coming up this slide. It was just a thank you. The next slide, so you don't actually need to see it. It was just me saying thank you for joining, and now I'll answer any questions that have come up throughout the session. So I had one here that said, how can I put on weight whilst eating healthily, please? So it's a good question. And I think by doing this, it would just be including lots of energy dense foods. So these are things like your nuts, your seeds, your nut butter. These are all incredibly energy dense. So, adding these to your breakfasts, adding these to your smoothies, if you're having toast, have some peanut butter and banana on it instead of just plain butter. Including lots of good healthy carbs. So, complex carbohydrates, you can still have your pastas, your rices, but ensuring that you're getting enough, protein. So looking at your plate and thinking, right, I'm going to make sure that I've got a good source of protein. I'm going to make sure I've got a good selection of vegetables, and I'm going to make sure that I've got a portion of complex carbohydrates. And ensuring that you have 3 meals a day where you have enough of your macronutrients in them. I also think a good way of trying to increase your weight whilst staying nutritious is to include some nutritious snacks. So you could try having 3 meals a day, 2 snacks, and making those snacks really lovely, full of nutrients, energy dense again. So you could try making some peanut butter energy balls with oats, dates, peanut butter. You could try having, cottage cheese on some, nice seeded crackers as a snack. You could even, if you were the type of person that enjoyed this, you could even try having, instead of having 3 main meals and 2 snacks, you could have 5 small meals. Switch your dairy for full fat, so trying full fat milk, and full fat yogurt, things like that, is a good way to do it. I think depending on how much weight you needed to or wanted to put on, you could obviously speak directly to a nutritionist who can help you through it to make sure that you're getting the right nutrients. But I think focusing on energy density is a good one. So looking out for your high calorie foods, nuts, seeds, including your pastas, and things like that. So I hope that answered your question a little bit, without detailing a really long list of things you could be eating, which I don't think we'll have time for. I hope that answered it. Okay, perfect. So that's all from me. So I think all the details will be put up on I think it's maybe been put up on the banner already, where you can find me, where you can find RVS. But yeah, that's all from me. So thank you very much, and happy World Menopause Day.